Good morning, everyone. Today is May 26th, 2025. It is a Monday. It has been a decent day so far. All the goals for the day are to brush my teeth, make a morning video log, and I need to do 3 recovery video logs, which sucks. But the days have just gotten me so tired at the end, so I don't make any evening video logs. And then yesterday, it was Sunday, we just had a lot going on, so didn't make any video logs. It was really fun day though. And then I need to set up my fan. I just ordered it off Amazon, so got to set that up. It's getting to be hot, dude. And then start my video log, start recording these video logs, obviously. And then I work at 11 day. I work 11 to 11, so 12-hour shift is gonna be a pretty fun one. I work with the older waitress Cindy in the morning, so I'm really excited about that. I haven't worked with her in forever, and I never see her, so we're just like, dude, let's go. And plus extra money, that'll be pretty nice. Wednesday is our payday, so I'm gonna write that down. Today is Memorial Day, which is pretty sick, so the banks are closed for sure. On next Sunday, and then don't think we have anything else going on. Tomorrow is Leo's birthday party. Need to call my tax lady sometime this week. And then, yeah, pretty sure that's it. Dude, Corey and I have been playing this grow your garden game on Roblox. It is a very simple game, but it is stupidly addicting. And I think part of it is there's a seed shop, right? And this is kind of interesting. There's a seed shop, right? And every 5 minutes it resets completely randomly. So it's every single seed has a certain whatever percentage to spawn in the seed shop. And I kind of came to the realization, I was like, dude, the reason I enjoy that so much is because it's gambling, bruh. Oh my god, it's gambling, dude. Okay. But so yeah, I was gambling in a kid's game, dude. But yeah, I'm gonna get to making the other evening video logs. I'll have to think of daily thoughts, which sucks, but it'll be just fine. So yeah, I'll see you all this evening. Have a good one. Hey, good evening, everybody. Today is the evening video log from May 26th, 2025. It was a Monday. It has been a solid day. So I woke up at 7:45, played some Roblox, hung out, made the morning video log, and then made the video log recovery for Friday. Played a little bit more Roblox, went to work, and then work was really fun. I don't usually work weekday mornings, but I was covering for my coworker. Little forehead action. Covering for my coworker. It was a really great shift. I was talking with the other lady who works in the morning, Cindy, and we were having a great conversation. I was really excited to work with her this morning, and it ended up being exactly as awesome as I expected it to be. And I was making my Friday video log, and afterwards I was so understimulated and so bored, and I realized I had to take my focus medication, so I took it right before work, right? And then what did I do? Went to work, got Jersey Mike's before work. It was all right. Work was chilling. It was really nice. It's Memorial Day, so it was kind of slow the whole day. I ended up making 140 something, 143 maybe. It was actually a really solid day. I think that took care of my rent for the week actually, so that's pretty nice. Or for the month, the week. Yeah, worked with her in the morning. We had great conversations about, politics, the economy. We talked a little bit about supply lines, which I thought was really interesting. She told me that I would do great in the political field. That's very interesting, considering I'm running for president in 2064. No, it was really nice. And we talked about Egyptian culture and what's going on in the Middle East, and we talked about how our government functions, and how there's supposed to be checks and balances, but they're kind of just not occurring, and how we have so many things in place, rules that are unenforced, there's sanctions on Russia or whatever, but there's no deterrent for the kind of behavior, right? And so it's Israel can commit a genocide, Russia can begin a war, when previously Ukraine gave up nukes so Russia wouldn't do that. And it's if we just had let them keep their nukes, where would we be in the world right now, right? They would have their own defense. And so now we're kind of at the point where it's Oh my gosh, dude! Like so many things are happening, and it's like we have so many things in place to stop this, or say this is not okay. No, no, we don't have things in place to stop this. We have so many things in place to say it's not okay, but there's nothing in place to actually deter it from occurring. So it's still just happening. And it's just really interesting. We had a good conversation about that, and then she ended up leaving around 2 o'clock, and I was working from 2 to 5 alone. It only picked up at like 3:30, but it was pretty nice. I was like, there was one point where I had like 6 tables at once, I think. And then 3 o'clock, Ava came and hung out with me for a couple hours before work. And then she clocked in at 5. Circa got there. And then I'm pretty sure they only had like 3 or 4 tables each. It was a pretty slow day. And then, yeah, sweeping and mopping. I felt, dude, our boss on his way out made the joke like, oh, it'll get busier on like 8 or 9 and all or 9:30. Dude, it got busier on 9:30, bro. My last table put their order in at 9:39. We close at 10. And they actually ended up leaving like almost on time. I think it was like 10:03 or something, which I thought was crazy. Usually people stay forever. But yeah, so I finished sweeping and mopping, left at like 10:15. On the way home, stopped at Albertsons. They had a like a deal on not Cherry Garcia, Ben and Jerry's ice cream. They were like $2.99 each, and so I picked up like 5 of them, bro. Like they were out of my favorite Cherry Garcia, but I picked up like 5 different flavors, and it was only like $20. I was like, crazy, dude. It was 18 or 16 something. I don't know. Whatever. Yeah, so got to home, did it all in the freezer, played some Roblox, played some Half Sword. Ava was over at Summers, so I was just waiting for her to get home. And then she got home and she's laying in bed watching TikToks, and I was researching George Washington, and I have so much to say about it. And so I guess I could just pull up the article I'm reading. Um, George Washington. Dude, this guy was actually really cool. Like, really, really cool. So, one of the first things that caught my eye was, as a teenager, Washington compiled... nope, not that. This is this. George Washington... Just saw it. George Washington compiled over 100 rules for social interaction styled The Rules of Civility, copied from an English translation of a French guidebook. Dude, I read all 110 of them. They're really interesting. And so obviously some of them are like outdated. I posted one on Blue Skies that really caught my eye. It was number 50 exactly. Um, Obviously no one reads my Blue Sky account. Whatever. It was George Washington's Rule 50 of Civility. Be not hasty to believe flying reports to the disparagement of any. Basically means if you hear rumors someone's a bad person, don't immediately believe it, right? Like that's just like a like that's a civil thing to do. And I'm sitting there just like, bro, we need some of that in our society. Holy shit, dude. And I mean, they were all really, really good. The last one was basically just like protect and grow your conscience. Like always think about like being a good person, right? And so I read through like his whole life, his military career, and like leading into the Revolutionary War, and like his marriage and everything. And dude, we think boomers were living life on easy mode before America was like America, right? It wasn't like an American government. They didn't have a strong central government. They literally, it's so hard to explain. He became a very large scale landowner, like very quickly. He had 6,500 acres of land. What? What? He just owned all that, bro. He just owned that. And I'm literally sitting here, I'm like, that is so insane. One of the things that he did that I think was so sick and like so forward thinking and intelligent was there was lots of people who were trying to buy the land he had to sell, right? And he opted multiple times to sell to middle, like moderately wealthy investors for smaller plots of land as opposed to like huge vasts of land for wealthy people. So he was a wealthy person who was specifically selling land to like middle class people. Dude, he was a fucking socialist. No, I'm kidding. I'm joking. Obviously, I'm pretty sure he was like the Republican. Like he was actually very nonpartisan during his presidency. So I thought that was really like he was very like hands off the political games. Like this is we just need to do what's right, right? But he talks about I guess the article talks about how he would try to avoid using his veto powers, which I think is really interesting. Like he would actively try to avoid using veto powers during like there if an issue came across his desk and he didn't like particularly like it, he would still sign it, dude. Today's politicians could never. They could never do that. They could never actively not veto a bill on their desk, even if, no matter what, if it went against the values of the party they are meant to represent. No matter what. Dude, it could literally be like, pull 500,000 children out of poverty for free. And dude, they'd look at it and be like, this is communism. We gone. It vetoed. Dude, no, like I'm like it's kind of like a funny metaphor. It's kind of like a funny hyperbole. I genuinely believe that to be true. Like they would do that. That is the type of shit that would happen. And our first president didn't do that. Like why don't people think like this anymore? And so like what really struck me was he married into his wealth. His wife was a widow of a wealthy plantation owner. So she owned all the land when her husband died. He married her. He inherited all that wealth from her, right? What really struck me was as they were going into the Revolutionary War, he had fought for the British, right? He, opposition, no. Marriage, civilian, and political life, yeah. So he fought in the French and Indian War, and he never held any, like, he was a colonel, but he always had, like, these huge issues with, like, chain of command, like, command structure, basically. And so it was, like, he would or like, he would kind of outrank somebody, or that was, like, they would outrank him in some ways, in some aspects, and they'd, like, butt heads on how they should do things, and who should take, and so it ended up being this, like a tectonic plates, like, grinding against each other, and so it made it harder, right? Made it a lot harder. What really catches my eye is that when he became wealthy, then he went up in society, then he got the chance to run for local office and represent his county and be, like, a part of the Virginia townhouses and, like, meetings and what are they called, conferences and everything. And so I'm sitting here, I'm like, dude, the reason that this man was so wealthy, like 6,500 acres in modern day is insane. That is an insane amount of land. I genuinely can't imagine a person owning that much land. That is an insane amount of land, right? What do I even say about this? What do I even say? As he goes into the Revolutionary War, people are looking at him because he's wealthy, he knows military, and they know of him, right? Because he's wealthy. Like, they talk about George Washington because he's wealthy. So they're like, oh yeah, we could have him lead our armies. He knows army, right? He knows how British forces work. I genuinely believe if he had not inherited all that wealth from his wife, he probably would have never been the first president of the United States. One of the biggest issues and one of the biggest causes of the revolution, I would say, or the fact that we won the revolution as Americans, I would say, is that there was so much land and so much wealth to be had in America there was so much opportunity to be had that the British didn't really grasp that the middle class was growing wide, like hugely. And so you end up having this middle class of politicians who are George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Alexander Hamilton, Aaron Burr, uh, what's his name? Rochambeau, Lafayette. You end up having this like huge middle class of decent leaders who are able, like Benjamin Franklin, who are able to instill discipline and really fight a government. And I mean, obviously, the American Revolution is, I would say, very unique compared to most revolutions that happen from within a country, right? Because the British central government didn't exist on that landmass, right? So it's like, just for random example, if Denmark, for whatever reason, the people decided to rise up against the government of Denmark for literally whatever reason, they would have a completely different battle to fight than America fought against the British. Because America's goal is just get the British off the land, right? Like, just push them out of the main areas, get them out, like, get them out of the land. If Denmark had their citizens rise up, the government of Denmark is in Denmark. Where we're rising up, like, it doesn't kind of happen that way anymore. And so just reading about it is really, really interesting. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, this has got to be a rare instance in human history. Or like, I wouldn't say rare, I would say uncommon. An uncommon instance with revolutions in human history of, like, the central government of, like, the king wasn't in America. And he's, like, giving them orders, and there was they called them the coercive acts, and it was basically just like authoritarian, like trying to get the colonies to submit, right? And so it's like, it's so interesting to read about all this because everything we hear about makes it so like cool and glorious and whatever. Dude, these are people. Like, at the very end of this, George Washington, after his first term, he did not want to run for president, dude. His wife did not want him to run a second term. He did not want to run a second term. He was tired. He was a little sick. He just didn't want to do it. And there's a quote that's, they said, Hamilton maintained that Washington's absence in his second term would be deplored as the greatest evil to the country. Bro, that is so true. Because during his first term, there's a lot of political infighting. Shocker. Like, whoa. Right? So Hamilton has the Federalists, and Thomas Jefferson has the Republicans, I think they're called. So it's the Federalists versus the Republicans. And so the Federalist is like, hey, let's, like, power to the courts, power to the judges, Congress needs to make us be a rich country. And the Republicans, I don't know that much about, actually. Open Lincoln New Window. The Democratic Republican Party, it championed liberalism, republicanism, individual rights, equal rights, separation of church and state, freedom of religion, anti-clericalism, emancipation of religious minorities, decentralization, free markets, free trade, and agrarianism, which is a social and political philosophy that advocates for rural development. In foreign policy, it was hostile to Great Britain. The party became increasingly dominant after the 1800 elections after the Federalist Party collapsed. I was going to say, this sounds very familiar to what we have now. So there's a lot of political infighting after his first term, and he's sick of it, dude. He does not want to deal with it because he's neutral. He is very bipartisan. He's very like, guys, let's just do what's best for the people. And everyone's just like, no. We need to have a wealthy country. No. We need to have individual rights, separation of church and state. Like, it's so interesting to see how it happens, you know? And, like, literally reading this, I'm just like, this is tickling my brain. And so I'm, like, thinking about, like, how can I be more involved in history? Like, I love hearing about stuff like this because this human aspect is so important.
Like, we can idolize the founding fathers all the time.
But dude, George Washington was sick of it, bro. He was when he was fighting in one of the things I got recommended this song on Spotify, but and it got me on this binge, right? But one of the things he talks about in the Revolutionary War is they are heavily outnumbered, heavily outgunned, like, and they don't have proper information networks to be a successful military. And he's like, dude, all I have is militia. Like, literally, I have like 8,000 farmers. These guys were farmers like 3 weeks ago, and I'm telling them to go fight British people. Like, how I'm telling them to go combat a global superpower, and like, how does it happen that way? And so, even at the end of it, when he's like the president, the country's like becoming its own thing. Obviously, there's still work to do, but dude, he did not want to run a second term. They peer pressured him into it. Susceptible to peer pressure, of course, and I should specify, he wasn't bipartisan. He was nonpartisan. He wasn't affiliated with a political group. Unheard of today. Unheard of. What? He literally wasn't affiliated with a political group. Crazy, bro. Crazy. I'll touch on one more thing. In his farewell address, apologies, got interrupted there. One of the things he says in his farewell address when he's leaving his second term is he counseled friendship and commerce with all nations, but advised against involvement in European wars. He stressed the importance of religion, asserting that religion and morality are indispensable supports in a republic. So I think that's really interesting because, especially in the modern day, we're kind of seeing a decline in younger people, like, I don't want to say grasping or latching onto religion, but I don't have like a better term for it. I guess accepting religion into, like, you want to say, they say accept Jesus into your heart. Literally that. Like, you have a younger generation that doesn't have faith or doesn't believe in a higher power. Maybe they believe there is a higher power, but they just don't know what it is, right? And so, at the end of this, it doesn't really matter. I feel this is my personal thought is, the religious aspect is not as important as the moral aspect. Like, the morality is truly an indispensable support. And so one of the things that I would say supports that thought is China. And China, for thousands of years, they don't really have a religion. They don't have, they have like mythological deities, like, but they don't like worship the god of thunder. They don't like worship Mulan, Nuwa. They don't worship these people, right? They're just deities who, like, they're more like mythological creatures than anything. But they have a very strong, societally supported morality system, like moral basis, right? And so it's really interesting that he says religion and morality. And so obviously he was probably more partial to the Federalist Party because the Republican Party was like, hey, separation of church and state, bro, that's just weird. Like, in modern day, how it translates is, if we don't have morality, you can't, like, morality is one of the indispensable supports of society, right? And even religion, I would go as far as to say, if you don't have a place where people can come together and have faith in each other and trust in each other, even if that's congruent with having faith and trust in a higher power, society struggles. And we're seeing it. Like, we're seeing the direct effects of not having consistent religion and not having consistent morals. I think that's so interesting. Like, that was something he was thinking about in the actual 1700s. What? Like, literally, as they're turning into the 1800s, he's thinking that society and the government will collapse if we don't have strong religion and strong morals. That's crazy.
But yeah, with that, I'm gonna head to bed. I hope you all had a
Wonderful, wonderful night, and I'll see you all in the morning. See ya.